Hey everyone, Andrew here, and it's time for another book review. It's been a while since I've done one of these, especially when it's a book that I just read and not me talking about a book I read a while ago. But there is a specific reason for that. Back in February, I did a series review on a romance series by Vicki Lewis Thompson called the Nerd Series. And it's a series that I really liked and has a bunch of interesting books throughout all of it. And I feel like I did a decent job with that, except for two of the books. One of the books was the last book in the series, which I've not read, and I just gave what was the synopsis and what I thought of the synopsis overall. And then there was one in the middle where I could not remember if I had read it. Like, I'd looked at the synopsis and I even reviewed the synopsis and what my thoughts on what the synopsis were, but it sounded familiar, but I could not recall it. And then I just recently came back from a trip, and during that trip I had a lot of free time, so I went ahead and I read the book. And the name of the book is Gone with the Nerd. It's by Vicki Lewis Thompson, as I said. And I don't think I've read the book before. Definitely elements of it are very familiar, and I don't know how much of it is just other writers kicking in, how much of it is like other books in her own series, but I can definitely say I hadn't read it because that first half of it was not familiar at all. So yeah, I'm going to go over the book a little bit, give you my thoughts on this one specifically, and just, what I feel about this one overall and where it would fit into that series. Then when I originally did this, I did the synopsis that I gotten, which was based off of Goodreads, which is basically movie star Zoe doesn't want to be movie star anymore. She wants to become a scientist and make a pill that does anti-aging, weight loss, and increases sexual potency. And she goes out into a cabin in the woods and gets her lawyer nerdy friend to go with her, and they start having relations and having attraction to each other even though he has a girlfriend. And that is the plot that I was given. That is not necessarily what the plot of the story is. There's definitely elements of that in there, but the plot is a bit different. So the plot is that we have a movie star actress named Zoe, who is a bombshell knockout kind of performer. She's extremely popular based off of her very attractive looks, but doesn't get very difficult or very challenging roles. And she wants to increase her repertoire and get more respect and start doing, you know, bigger, more important type of roles. Like, her dream is to do movies with Matt Damon and Steven Spielberg and be, a Golden Globe winner or an Academy Award winner. And she comes across this part in a movie that she thinks will help boost her to that. However, the part calls for a flat-chested, nerdy woman, and she is definitely nothing like that. So she decides that she wants this part and she can do everything to get it, so she needs to get coaching and learn how to be more nerdy and how to fit into this role better. So she goes to the only nerd she knows, her contract lawyer, Flynn. And she and Flynn have worked together for a while. There's been no sexual chemistry or any interest in them at all until the exact beginning of this book. Because immediately when she's asking for him for help, they immediately are looking at each other in, oh, you're actually kind of attractive, and I could totally see kissing you kind of way. And Flynn is told the plan, which is that Zoe has a friend up in Northern California who has a cabin. They're going to go out into the middle of nowhere, and she's going to study him and learn how to be nerdy and work with him on the role and figure out how to do the performance. Flynn does not want to do this. He does not really think it could help, but he doesn't want to lose Zoe as a client, and he agrees to do it on the caveat that he has to tell his girlfriend what's going on and where he's going to be. Because he has a long-term girlfriend who is a lawyer and teacher at Harvard University, and they've been on a long-distance relationship for a while, and he's like, I'm not doing this unless she knows. And Zoe doesn't want to agree to that because she doesn't want anyone to know, and the off chance it becomes, tabloid media thing. But she agrees, and they go up on separate planes to this small town in Northern California. There, Zoe runs into her old high school friend who she's rented the cabin from, named Margot. And I say they were friends, not necessarily, like, they were on the same cheerleading squad, but they weren't necessarily friends. But they do have a weird part in their history where Margot's boyfriend broke up with her right before prom so he could ask Zoe out and take her to prom. And Zoe did not know about this and got extremely mad and broke up with him the second that she found out about it. But she's always felt guilty as a result of, breaking up that relationship, even though she didn't know anything about it. So the town itself is an old mining town, but unfortunately the mines have closed down. So instead of being a mining town now, it is actually more of a tourist spot because of the multiple local sightings of Bigfoot. And Zoe doesn't believe any of this, even though her friend Margot claims that she's seen Bigfoots all over the place. Like, she's seen a whole family of Bigfoot. She's actually holds the record in town for seeing the most amount of Bigfoots. But she doesn't believe it. But when Flynn gets there and he finds out about it, he's super excited because he turns out he's into cryptozoology, which is the belief in the mythical things, including Bigfoot and Loch Ness and all that. So he is like, oh, I want to go and look. I want to find out about it. And unfortunately, Bigfoot takes up a good quarter of this book. Like, there's a lot about Bigfoot, and it's a lot. It's all about, like, who he, like, where he is and looking for him and the signs of a Bigfoot and things like that. And I'm not someone who's gonna say whether or not Bigfoot exists. I'm always just because there isn't proof doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That said, if Bigfoot does exist, I doubt he would be in Northern California. If anything, he would be as far removed from humanity as possible. Flynn and Zoe start working on the part, start getting connected to each other, and they start, having extremely strong sexual reactions to each other. It doesn't help that Flynn bought a box of condoms with him because he just grabbed the bag that was already packed for his weekend with his girlfriend that he was doing next week, and didn't even remember or think about the box of condoms in the bag. And Zoe sees this and is like, okay, you certainly were thinking about something this weekend. Yeah, he goes from, trying to keep, focus on the work and not be distracted and focusing on his girlfriend and being true to his girlfriend to immediately going, she's so hot, I want to kiss her, I want to do these things to her, I can't keep my hands off her type of person. Like, it literally goes from, no, we're not doing this, I have a girlfriend, I'm not even going to consider this, to making out and him pulling up her shirt and reaching his hands down her pants in 100 pages. And that's a lot for the first 100 pages to go from 100% no, I've never ever thought about her in that way to immediately getting to third base and heading towards home. That was very, very quick. They get super close and start having hot and heavy thoughts about each other, and he, like, almost completely forgets about his girlfriend by the 100th page. Like, it's like, she exists, I know, but I really need to think about our relationship while I'm here with this super hot actress that I just stuck my hand down her pants. Like, during all this, they're also hearing strange noises outside, and some of them seem to be Bigfoot noises because they are followed by howling and an incredibly dark, stinky smell, which apparently is signs of Bigfoot. But then there's also just literal written parts where it's clearly someone is watching them with certain intents. Really? Yeah. You want to say hello? Come here. This is Tippy Hedren. Say hi, Tippy. Her sister is Yaya. She's somewhere around here. Yaya Gavor. Sorry, your sister. He's a boy. I can't really do this with you on my lap. So, next morning, Zoe goes out to the front porch, is looking over the script, sees a couple bees start to come out, and she's terrified because she's deathly allergic to bees. And then more and more and more, and a whole swarm of bees start coming out. She runs into the house, grabs Flynn. They run out, get into the car, drive into town. They tell Margot about the bees. She sends someone up to go check on it. Turns out that the hive under the porch was a man-made hive, that someone had put that there. And Margot starts suspecting that Flynn's girlfriend had set this up, that his girlfriend is actually in town or has hired someone to cause the trouble and try to take Zoe out of the picture for trying to take her man. And it does not take much to convince Zoe that this might be the case. So she and Flynn go back to the cabin, and they are smelling something weird as they enter the cabin, but don't think much of it. They start to make a meal, and as they go to light the thing, they realize that it's gas, and that the gas has been in the entire house, so they run outside and escape. And they realize that there's a good chance that someone is doing something, that these instances are not necessarily coincidence. And Margot shows up and is saying, oh, there's been a woman around town asking about the cabin, and I told the person not to tell them where the cabin is, but I think that might be Flynn's girlfriend. Flynn, can you describe her, and I will go and talk to the person that runs the hotel and see if that's her. And Flynn gives a very basic description of her, like her height, her hair color, and that she's right-handed. And they're like, that's not a lot to go on. Can you give us more specifics? Like, what is her eye color? And Flynn realizes that he doesn't know. And while he's trying to think about it, all he can think about is Zoe, and realizes that he not only knows her eye color, he knows the different shades of her eye color, that her eye color changes depending on her mood or what she's feeling. And it's like, so he is quickly realizing that he is not in love with his girlfriend, that it was just a relationship that made sense on paper to them. They were both lawyers, they were both had similar interests, but there was no actual deep emotions or love behind it. So he comes to the terms with that, accepts that, which gives him all he needs to decide that finally that he's just going to sleep with Zoe. So him and Zoe start having sex, and then they hear Bigfoot outside, so they get dressed and go outside and look for Bigfoot. They find Bigfoot, maybe, and immediately turn around and run away scared. They then go and have sex in the truck, and it's a good thing they were in the truck because a big tree falls over and crashes and destroys the room that Zoe was staying in, the master bedroom. They go and check the tree, and it's clear that the tree had been cut ahead of time, that it had been cut like hours or days beforehand and had posts holding it in place, and someone had removed those to cause the accident. So now, and they also get a call from Margot saying that Flynn's girlfriend is in town and she's at the hotel. So Flynn, first thing in the morning, gets in the truck and drives into town to go confront his girlfriend. Meanwhile, the stalker shows up at the cabin and pulls a gun on Zoe and plans to kill her. Flynn turns around, comes back, rescues Zoe, nearly gets shot, but survives because he had his PDA phone in his pocket and the bullet hit it because, cliches. Like, and they arrest the person, they get that taken care of. Flynn breaks up with his girlfriend, tells Zoe how he truly feels about her. They kiss. Cuts to the future. Zoe is accepting her Golden Globe for Best Performance, and she is extremely pregnant with Flynn's kid. And that's how the story ends. And yeah, this one is a little all over the place. Like, because when you break it down, there's a couple things going on with this. It's like, it's 1/4 of the story is the romance. 1/4 of it is Bigfoot. 1/4 of it is the mystery of who the stalker is. And then the other quarter is everything to do with the two neighbor kids that I skipped entirely because they're not important. And there's stuff to really like about it. I really like the chemistry between the main characters. I think they have a really good relationship. I really feel the romance coming from them. It is a bit on the harder to see side why she is so attracted to him, whereas you completely understand why he's attracted to her. I don't know. Like, she describes him to be decent, but he's not a secret muscle bound person like all of the other versions of this. Although he is described as someone who runs, so he is athletically built, but he's not so attractive that he's narcissistic about it. That's exactly how it's kind of described. And it's like, okay. And it's like, well, it's his personality and the things that she likes about him and this, that, and the other. Okay. I don't know. It felt like it could have been better delved into, better highlighted. But I've seen way worse, and there's been way worse versions of this. My big problem with the romance for all of that is the fact that he has a girlfriend for the majority of the book. In fact, I'm just going to say the entirety of the book, because he only breaks up with her in like the last chapter before the epilogue. And I don't like cheating stories. I don't. I've never been a fan of that. It's the same reason I don't like love triangles. It's the same reason why I don't like guys who are specifically there just to try to take someone else's girl. I don't like those things. I don't want them in stories. I know that happens, and I'm like, and you can tell that from the beginning that he doesn't necessarily love his girlfriend. That it's a relationship of logic and convenience. But it's still that thing where it's like, having him go from I have a girlfriend, nothing's gonna happen, I have a girlfriend, to putting his hand down Zoe's pants within the first 100 pages is a bit much. And the fact that he still plans to, marry, because that was the thing, he was planning to go and propose to his girlfriend, and that he got to that point and then was still not only tempted by Zoe, but gave into it relatively easily. Like, he did not put up much fight on that. And to be fair, like, this author has never done this in any of her other books. There's no other one where it's like, I was in a relationship with someone else, but then I got attracted to you. This is the only book that really has that, and it hurts the book, in my opinion. It's definitely makes it a little bit harder to get fully into the romance when you have that nagging thing of, he still hasn't broken up with his girlfriend. He still hasn't broken up with his girlfriend. He still hasn't broken up with his girlfriend the whole time. Everything with the Bigfoot stuff is just... It's unnecessarily necessary. It doesn't really add much to it. It's just another nerdy thing that the author can talk about, which is fine. Like, she's done that in some of the others, but it just doesn't necessarily hold the most interest for me, and it just gets to be too big of a point for the whole story. Like I said, it's so much of the story. It's a good quarter of the story. It's a almost 400-page book, so there's almost 100 pages dedicated to Bigfoot and looking for Bigfoot and hunting Bigfoot. Then you have the play within the story, which is like her movie part, the part that she wants to get. And she describes it as a thing that will get her a Golden Globe and get her and this recognition. And then a couple pages later, she's describing what the play is, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of goofy and a little odd. It's basically like a spoof." And I'm like listening, reading that, going, "How is a spoof going to get you a Golden Globe?" Because, like, there is a Golden Globe section that is, musicals and comedies, but I don't think there's too many performances from a spoof that have won Academy or Golden Globes or Academy Awards. And then you have actual reading of the story, because you got it as the two characters reading it, and it is a straight up Harlequin romance thing, or a 90s thriller style kind of story. It's, nerdy scientist who has someone coming after her, and she gets this super attractive bodyguard who has to protect her, and they have super corny dialogue that bounces off each other, and it's like, I'm like reading it going, how would this get you even this feels like this would get you a Razzie. This is not It's got some of the worst dialogue. And to be fair, there are romance stories that have done well. Cher got an Academy Award for Moonstruck, and Moonstruck is basically almost a straight up romance with some deep thoughts and dramatic elements. But Moonstruck is an extremely well written, well told story. The play within the story is not. It's got really cheesy dialogue. You have the main girl multiple times saying, "I'm just a flat chested scientist." Nobody says that. No one talks to a guy. No girl with a flat chest talks to a guy and brings up the fact that she's flat chested more than once. If she, even that, I don't. I've never met a girl who said, "Oh yeah, I told my guy I was flat chested." Like, we can tell. And then you have the guy who calls every woman he meets baby doll because he's a kind of egotistical, sexist pig character, and it's it's stupid and bad, and I cannot see how in the world she got a Golden Globe for that. Like, there's no way. Like, just she must have been giving like Laurence Olivier level of expert performance in this really terribly written script, or she rewrote the script or something. I don't know. I get what they were trying for. Like, if they had not actually done line for line of the script, it might have worked better. But I don't know. And then you have the mystery of who the stalker is and why they're doing the things they're doing. And yeah, I'm not a big like so the entire time they're trying to set up that it's this person, that it's going to be the girlfriend. And anyone who's ever read a mystery story knows that the person they keep telling you it is rarely ever the person it is. But they don't have enough other suspects to really give you any other options. Like, there's only 4 people in total it could possibly be, and 2 of the people we never see. So it's only 2 people. And they make it, and it's like, if you really think about it, it's like, well, there's really only one person it could be, and they have motive, opportunity, and they're the only ones that can do some of these things. And yeah, and I really didn't want it to be either of the 2 people that were the suspects. But it was, and then they were just full on cliched, "No, I'm crazy. I'm killing you for revenge." And it's like, it was yeah, that was honestly the weakest part of the story, is that mystery stuff. And it offsets a little bit and drags it down a little bit. And to be fair, this is not an author that does this very often. She's only ever done one of the other nerd series where they were a mystery of who the big evil corporate person was, and that was Talk Nerdy to Me, about the supermodel who was building the hovercraft. And that one and this one have a lot in common. And in fact, they have a little too much in common, because it's like they're almost the same story kind of thing. And if you made me choose, I would say I liked the romance in this one a bit more, but I liked the story and the elements of the other one more of that thing. So it's like hit or miss. But it's like, that one, you also knew pretty easily who the person who's doing all this stuff. It's like, well, you set up this person and you gave us extremely good motivation for why they would want to do this. Plus, you haven't given us enough other people that could be. And that's the same thing with this one. It's like, there's 2 people it could be, and it's clearly one of them. And in this one, it's like, the second they give certain motivation, and then one of the things, you're like, that's you. I really don't want it to be you, because I liked your character up until this point. But nope. Oh, well. Yeah. Like, I was honestly, but it's a double-edged sword, because it's one of those things of, like, it's like it had to be one of these 2 people, because otherwise it would have been somebody who hadn't been in the entire book, just showing up at the end being like, "I'm the person. I've been behind it all along," and be like, "Who are you? We haven't even met you before. You were just mentioned at some point." But yeah, so it's like, it wouldn't have worked for either of those. I just wish we'd had a bigger suspect list. Like they keep bringing up Flynn's girlfriend, but they only ever rarely mention the fact that Zoe had a boyfriend. He wasn't really her boyfriend. He was her publicity boyfriend. He just like the publicity says that we're together and we're in a relationship, but we're really not. But you could have easily had him be one of the people who showed up and had him be a suspect and given him motivations. They even like sort of try to hint that that could be possible, but he only shows up at the very end, and he's just a good guy at the end. He's just like, yeah, no, our relationship was fake. That's too bad. I'm moving on. That's about him. And I don't know. Also, the story is also extremely cliched. It's got a lot of really bad stuff in it. It's, but like I said, there's some good stuff in this. The relationship and the main characters are great. I really like our main characters. I really like their connection and how well they worked off each other. The only negative I have with that entirely is the fact that he had a girlfriend, and so every scene that they're in that they're starting to get close and emotional, I just hearing in the back of my head, he has a girlfriend, he has a girlfriend, he has a girlfriend, he has a girlfriend, and it's like, it's enough, it's rough. But I also really liked their romance and even their sex scenes. Like, they get to this sex scene where they actually have it for the first time, and it's this perfect level of exciting and interesting, but also real and awkward. And it kind of works and it kind of doesn't. You also have but there's also the odd thing about Zoe, in that Zoe doesn't fit in with the rest of the series' female protagonists. Like, she is not nerdy in any way, shape, or form, which all the other girls had a little bit of it. Even the supermodel in Talk Nerdy to Me was building a hovercraft and had nerdy elements to her. Zoe doesn't have any of that. She is just a bombshell, gorgeous girl who's like wants to be cool and attractive. Like, she's multiple times she's like, "Oh yeah, I work out just to look good," and I know. And like, you get to the sex scene and it's like, he's like, "Is she gonna be under the covers or this and that?" And she's just like full on posed, full naked, like, "Hey, big boy," and it's like, okay, none of the other girls in the series would do that, which is fine. You know, it's like the girls are not the nerds in the nerdy series. The boys are the nerds in the nerdy series. But it does add an element to where it's like, this doesn't necessarily match up with the rest of the series. Yeah, that's it. I still kind of like the story. I still like elements of it. I think it's still well written and a fun read. I had more than a few times where I set it down and like really wanted to pick it up immediately and keep going. So like, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I would still recommend it. I give it a 4 out of 5. Like, it has flaws, but I think the writing and the way it's told and the interesting stuff in it works very well. It just has a bunch of little problems. Overall, as far as it fits into the nerdy series, it's definitely not the worst. It's definitely, I much prefer to Nerds Gone Wild, because at least this couple, you know, had chemistry and didn't spend the whole time bickering with each other. But it's still in the lower echelon because of the problems with it. Like, it's about on par with Talk Nerdy to me, about in the lower register. It's like, it's got some stuff in it and some stuff that doesn't. Like, I really like the characters of it, but the story and stuff is a little bit lacking. But that's just my opinion. What do you all think? Does this sound like a book that would interest you? Have you read it? What are your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments below. If I ever get around to reading Nerds Are From Mars, I will do another recording of this. Until then, happy reading, and I will see you all again next time. Bye!